I've noticed, thankfully somebody else has also, because this was based upon a poll that they conducted online, which I saw somebody put on Twitter, that there's been a noticeable uptick of younger people watching shows and films with closed captioning on. And they found it to be very odd because it was kind of this inverted bell curve where you have the older generation, like the boomers, watching it because they're elderly, and then it goes down with Gen X, and then it goes a little bit with the millennials, and then the Zoomers have apparently become very big on the whole thing of watching it with, closed captioning and such like that. And I found it to be very weird that they would be watching programs with closed captioning, because I know, seeing people on campus, they've got their AirPods in all the time.
That's what the young person at work, he's 23 years old and he has his earbuds in all the time.
All the time. So it's like, what is so amazing that you have to be listening to consistently?
I don't think I hear people.
What's really bad about the AirPods too is that the people who are basically talking to somebody think that they are in like that cone of silence from like Get Smart, where nobody else can hear them, but it's like, no, we can hear you. You're like yelling. I know everything that's going on right now in your personal life, and I don't want to. It's pretty grotesque, ma'am. Or otherwise, like I see like there's like signs posted around college campuses now at crossings where they're like, stop and look, because we know you're not listening for cars. You have to visually identify any motor vehicles they're trying to cross before you go from one side of the street to another. So I think it's kind of a problem with that. I don't know, maybe because they always have pods in that they're starting to lose their hearing or something, but I just thought this was kind of an interesting thing.
So this is a BBC article on what you're talking about, and this might be the diagram you're saying, because it says 80% of age 18 to 24-year-olds use subtitles some or all of the time watching TV on any device. 64%, 26 to 35, 55%, 36 to 45. And then it drops down to, strangely, 23% of elderly people don't do it. That might be because they don't know how to. Although I guess 56-year-old does not count as elderly, but this is talking about how young people are bring subtitles as the norm. I wonder if anime contributed to that.
Okay.
Just because, this is talking about older people think that older people often feel like subtitles require extra concentration when watching foreign language productions, whereas I think young people can take in far more information quickly because they're used to it. And I only turn captions on if the mix is really bad, which is something else you wanted to talk about, and we'll touch on that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I think it is partially because, like, for example, a girl I dated was she had captions on everything, but so did my grandmother, who was 85, 90 watching TV and stuff. My grandmother got to the point where she actually would just mute the television and read the captions because she had to turn it up so loud to hear it.
Oh.
And my mom would be like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And
she thought it was a new episode of Lawrence
Welk. She's jamming out.
It was the same episode she's seen 12 times.
The neighbors are like, "What's going
on?" She's listening to Lawrence Welk again.
Perry Mason. My mom was.
My
grandmother was a Perry Mason, like the
she black was a Perry Mason gal,
old school black and white Perry Mason.
Ooh, when Perry, when he was still thin and handsome.
Yeah. So yeah, I do wonder if anime's pervasiveness and acceptance in mainstream culture contributed to young people being like, yeah, I'm going to turn captions on all the time.
Yeah, I think everything's an anime now.
It makes this show has subtitles just like my anime.
This is a nature documentary.
I wonder if I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, like you were saying, captions on ad versus mixes. There's a bunch of reasons why sound mixes are difficult.
Garbage.
It's principally one of the things that has kind of been retired is that you used to get 2.0 stereo channel mixes on like DVDs. You'd have 5.1, 2 channel, 2.0,
right.
And then whatever else they would do. I don't think that they do much stereo mixing anymore. Everything is mixed for 5.1 surround.
Yeah, I feel like some of the older DVDs that I own, like the kind where it was like the paper, like the cardboard type of thing where you had the plastic sidebar tab that you would kind of pop open and it was like that. That one I remember where you had the option to do the 2 and the 5.1 whatever.
Yeah.
But now the more recent like ones that I purchased that were like Blu-rays, there is no audio option unless you want to have like, English, Spanish, or French for audio track, and that's it.
What's a new Blu-ray? Let's say Transformers.
Yeah, Transformers. I'm thinking looking over there. I got a copy of Pacific Rim Job. So
you have a copy of Pacific Rim?
Job.
You're such a dad now. You're thinking like dad, like you're like 12-year-old. Pacific Rim Job.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's one of the more recent ones. I mean, we also have a bunch of like Disney Blu-rays and stuff like that, of course. But yeah, it's. I mean, not to say that older DVDs and stuff came with options for that.
This is such.
I feel like it was more prevalent back in the day.
This is such an offensive thing. So I put in Transformers 5. I don't even know what movie they were on. Look it's Prime Video, DVD. Okay, here we go, Blu-ray. But they start off with pushing everything's Prime Video, Prime Video, Prime Video, Prime Video, Prime Video, Prime Video, Prime Video.
Can I just
Prime
buy a physical copy?
It's like, what the frick? Even the original show, they want you to buy the Prime Video version, which may or may not be available in 3 years from now.
Yeah.
License.
Yeah.
They want you to license it. All right. Anyway, the point is does this tell us?
I feel
specs?
like the search option and all the stuff for like things on Amazon are just terrible.
I wanted to see if it gave. Yeah, this is okay. If it gave,
this is what it looks like.
Yeah, so it doesn't give you what the audio tracks are.
It's probably just at least 5.1 or probably 7.1, 7.2, whatever it is. Is it something also? Do you think it's because they expect everybody now to have some sort of sound bar?
Well, it's more soundbars handle it better, but it's done as if you have left and right channel, middle channel, rear left, rear right.
The full enchilada.
The full enchilada. Which the thing is that I had that in. I had a really cheap surround sound thing when I first got an Xbox 360, and then I was like, okay, I never need to do this again. When that thing died, I'm fine with stereo. You know what it is? If it's not in mono, it's not worth watching. Anything post 1955, it's not worth it.
Does that include 2001: A Space Odyssey?
No, it's too.
Oh.
Although Kubrick, I think,
asterisk apart from these examples.
No, I see. I'm fair. If I'm going to make sweeping generalizations, I punish the things that I like too. So it's like I will. But yeah, it's weird that this doesn't give you at all like what.
That's why their descriptions on Amazon are complete trash. Because I've looked at some other stuff, not necessarily like films and stuff, but like just different items, like a lot of computer component stuff, and they like it's like you didn't tell me anything about this.
I can't see this bigger. Nope.
But yeah, it's that, and then the other issue is like where there's scenes that are far too dark, and it's like, how did you guys? Like, I understand that you're trying to make this for the highest quality viewing because
Will that get explained?
Because I was watching, what was it, second episode of this season's Mandalorian, and it takes place in a cave. And I understand caves, yes, they are dark, but this is a television show, so I need to see what the heck is going on, and I can't see anything. And I'm like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like, somebody messed up here. Like, does nobody in this post know what they're doing? Are you the only person who knows what he's doing? Because I feel like that's it. Because you probably would have seen it and been like, well, no, but honestly, like, somebody who's, because they got to run this stuff past somebody, and somebody should be like, listen, this is just messed up because we got a whole bunch of people who buy a smart television and they never go playing around with like color saturation and sharpness and all that other stuff.
Right.
They just pull it out of the box and it's still set in like what's like Best Buy settings or whatever.
Smooth motion is turned on.
Oh God, I'm so glad I took that off because I'm just like, I put it on a couple times just to see, and I'm just like, my Lord.
So the thing with that, multiple problems. As Alex finishes that glass of whiskey,
I needed to.
Is that they don't. In the olden days, you would, if you're doing a scene in a cave, you have a stage and you light it like it's dark, but it's still lit. So you've got blue lights and you
Star Trek Next Generation, good example.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's you light it. Now one of the problems is that they shoot what is called day for night, which is where you shoot outside during the day and then crush the colors and the brightness to make it look like it's night. And it looks terrible. It almost universally looks terrible. People said Nope looked good. I would argue Nope looks good for shooting day for night. It does not look the way it would have looked if they had actually shot at night.
I think RLM said something about that where there's like they're trying to do that, but they just put like this bluish tint filter on it and kind of call it a day or call it a night.
I know that this happened with House of the Dragon. Yeah. Which is the Game of Thrones spinoff. Yeah,
because we don't know what happens in the end.
So yeah, like you were saying, they just put a tint on it and call it and say, "Yes, we shot at night." It's
yeah, this is a sunset. Yeah,
or this was the famous shot.
Yeah, see, and it looks like complete.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Shit.
Because
Yeah,
it's not lit for nighttime. It's just day, and they just crush the color.
because back in the day,
It's
if they
lazy.
needed
It's cheaper, and it's lazy.
because back in the day, if you wanted an actual effect to make it look like that, you had to wait to shoot during that particular time when you can get that lighting, natural light thing.
It is,
but now it's like it's so cheap and so shitty. It's like, do they really not even care anymore? And it looks like they just don't because they have to get the thing done. It's terrible.
I mean, the problem is that it doesn't matter if the colorist and the editor and the director and the producers all know that it looks terrible, because the studio chief who's writing those checks says,
Yeah,
it's fine.
just get it out.
Nobody will care. Nobody. It's great. I love it. Next. Oh yeah, this is good.
We all
too.
work for WB.
Right.
Get it out. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and the truth is okay.
Yeah.
So you get a couple of articles online about why does Game of Thrones look so dark?
Yeah. On
all that's
sites nobody ever visits.
Unless you cancel your subscription, none of this stuff changes. So you can complain on the internet as much as you want about how
I can't see anything in the Mandalorian.
Didn't you renew your Disney subscription to for 1 billion years now?
No, it's
I thought you
I don't know how it is. I think it's a monthly thing. I have no idea.
Okay.
I just know I turn it on and I can watch Lilo and Stitch.
All I know is I can turn it on, and the kids can watch stuff.
Kids can watch
I-
stuff.
I-
I keep trying to show them DuckTales, and there's like,
I get it, but if you're, what I care about is not so much Alex and his family watching Disney Plus, and him complaining on the internet with me about it's too dark. What I care about is the man children who have the same complaints but have no kids that they are beholden to, and are just
and
like,
there's
TV show bad that I don't like. Make TV
There's
show
such-
that I like. Here's another $15 to give me stuff that I don't like.
they're such lifelong Disney fans. They've been Disney fans since the age of 6. Oh, I'm sorry, 36, because you're full of.
It's not Disney anymore, anyway.
No, it's just, my God, Instagram walls.
But yeah, so that's what's going on. You've got
I hate these people.
the entire process of shooting the scenes is different. It's a lazy shortcut. Lighting, theatrical, clever lighting to emulate nighttime isn't around anymore.
No.
It's all shortcut, pipeline, get it out the door thinking for most of the stuff.
It's sad too, because when you take a look and see how a lot of these older films, older shows had to go to such extents and such lengths to do something like this, that is now done at like an eighth of the effort and time, but costs 8 times more than what it did back then.
It's very the entire landscape of cinema is much different than it was 20 years ago. It is interesting because it's weird. This might be cope, but I'll put it this way. If I was a young person now looking at the movie industry, I don't know that I would have become an editor. I don't know that I would have been so enamored with filmmaking for so long if I grew up looking at these movies.
Oh, not these. No.
So what I'm getting at is that if I had gotten, like, was in Hollywood trying to, like, make it as a filmmaker and seeing what gets put into theaters now, I'd be really, I mean, I'm disillusioned on the outside. If I was on the inside, it'd be like, I worked so hard to try to make movies here, and now I just can't because nobody wants to see this shit anymore besides weirdos in Chicago and at art theaters. Weirdos at art theaters.
Yeah. I mean, well, also on this same flip side, you know, if you want to get into acting and stuff, who is the pinnacle of male acting at this point? Timothy Chalamet.
Oh God, you're right.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if it was Matt Damon or Ben Affleck. I think it was Matt Damon who made the point, like, Good Will Hunting couldn't be made now because their studios were willing to take a chance on little dramas because they could make money back on DVD and VHS sales.
Right.
Streaming blew that away. So now studios are far more cautious about films that they finance, even independent studios.
Yeah, which is so weird because then you have these, you know, on the flip, you have then like these Marvel DC films which they pour triple-digit millions into. And it's like, you have to get this
And they
back
barely
3 or 4 times fold. And then when they bomb massively. But they're like, well, these are the surefire things that we're going to... I mean, just look at how much crap Marvel's put out in the past 2 years. That it's just been...
even more. Look at DC. DC's had like
DC.
3 flops in a row.
DC's has to come out with a Flash movie and stick Michael Keaton in there.
That's
I mean, that's what they've had to resort to.
That's so pathetic. It's so weird to me that after Marvel...
And I don't want Michael Keaton to have to do this.
Right. After Marvel does their Spider-Man thing, now suddenly we're getting a Batman version of that. It's like, God, come on, man. So yeah, you know, movies suck. I don't know if they'll ever get fixed at the way culture is operating these days. Popular culture is kind of, as the kids say, kind of toxic. So
yeah, it's in a weird state right now.
It's in a weird state where I don't know what team to root for, because the young filmmakers were being incendiary when they in the 90s. Now, being an incendiary filmmaker, but they were like doing very transgressive things. Now being an incendiary filmmaker means being hyper conservative. And the safe filmmaking is more, well, I don't want to get too political, but it's like it's I would posit that in many ways it has its own problems with being close-minded and being as like you've said before, with the whole like, ooh, no sex scenes in movies. It's so puritanical. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the far left ideology behind films at the moment is very puritanical in its own way.
Yeah.
And that's what's so I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, or some of these younger filmmakers that would have made, you know, stuff back in the 90s, like a lot of the indie films, they've now become the studio machine yes man type of directors. I mean, you know, Marvel being a fantastic case for a lot of the stuff where it's like they're just hiring, this director did this movie back then and this thing, and now we're going to hire them and give them this, you know, $350 million budget to make this movie because there's some hot up and coming director, and the movie bombs. And it's like, but they were like, oh yes, you know, I'll take the check and stuff. And they could care less if the money makes, you know, if the movie makes money or not. They got paid anyways. But, you know, I always think back of like, you know, somebody like what kind of a Marvel movie or DC film? It might be a little bit harder, but what kind of Marvel movie would Richard Linklater end up making? Because I always go back to thinking about like, you know, Slacker and stuff like that. IFC back in the day compared to IFC now. Complete night and day.
I would love to see like Harmony Korine's superhero film.
Yes. Jim
Jarmusch, Paul Thomas Anderson.
We're just getting everybody.
It's all of these real sophisticated
Gus Van
filmmakers.
Sant.
Yeah, all of them. I mean,
you know what?
Gaspar Noé.
You know what we need to do, Brendan? We need to get these guys together and do an Expendables version of film directors doing a Marvel movie.
I'll put it. What we need to do is have a podcast series where it's just like, hi, Mr. Scorsese. We all know your feelings on superhero films, but if you had to make a superhero film with no restrictions on how or what it's about, what is your approach to telling a superhero story? I'm like, you've got a pretty good example of that, which is M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable, which is like such a unique take on the whole genre, to the point where people he like tricked people into coming to see his superhero film. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
I think Scorsese, sorry to interrupt, but I think Scorsese would probably be into making like a gritty Marvel superhero movie of like a
Nolan-esque.
Yeah, like superhero doesn't have power, like Daredevil. I think he would do good with Daredevil, where it's more grounded, it's more gritty, it's a more of a vigilante type of superhero rather than one that's got like powers and stuff like that.
Maybe we can conceptualize these films. Like, I'm thinking Paul Thomas Anderson would do sort of how this sort, like, I could see him like doing Punisher and like this sort of vigilantism and authority and power starts to corrupt this person, and they continue to thirst for more power and for more authority.
They're doing what their way is the best way and the only way, and then
there will be blood in New York with the Punisher.
Oh man,
where he's
see, why are we
get liquored up and go to the peach tree
plays.
dance, and then the guy's like, huh. He's like, I'm gonna fucking shoot this guy.
Oh man, I'm getting excited just thinking about the whole thing, you know?
Like, so who else? You said Gus Van Sant.
Who was he? Oh, I got the guy. If you're a superhero fan, if you like these movies and your lady friend doesn't, we got the perfect director for you. Baz Luhrmann. Because let me tell you, Erica loves her Moulin Rouge.
Interesting. Has she seen any of his other films?
She's watched Australia before.
Oh, that's good.
I got her to watch Strictly Ballroom, but I don't recall if we finished it.
Alex,
because I love Strictly Ballroom.
You are a not surprisingly, but most people don't know how film literate you are because you don't usually go down.
I definitely don't come off like that. Like,
well, you don't usually talk about it either.
No, I mean, really, considering you're my best friend, but it's like you're the only person that I can be able to talk about it. Because a lot of times if I talk about stuff like that, people just think I'm a little pretentious and shit. And I'm just like, no, it's because you enjoy watching these dumb, idiotic films like Super Troopers. Sorry, but it is. It sucks. Beer Fest is much better. Same people too. But yeah, like I grew up, I mean, even before I think I met you in high school, like I was enjoying watching IFC when IFC was, like I always say, when IFC was still good. And it's like, yeah, when IFC was good and you had guys like Gus Van Sant, Baz Luhrmann, Jim Jarmusch, Richard Linklater, all those I can't think of
it's like the 90s independent film crew.
Yeah. And those guys, I mean, they've just kind of petered away over the decades.
It's funny.
They show up every so often, but they're not. I don't know. Maybe the audience isn't there anymore.
Well, it's funny you mention
anymore. But,
it's funny you mention all of this because I just happened to be watching a clip of an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and he was saying how he was part of this like class of filmmakers, like school class, like a class of filmmakers that were at Sundance in like 1992 or 1993, and like something like 75% of the films that were shown at that Sundance got picked up for wide distribution.
That's amazing.
And he was like, I felt like we were all going to be making films together forever. Yeah. And he's like, I'm one of like 3.
Yeah.
And when you say this,
around and he's like,
I'm still be allowed to work at this level somehow but like we were saying, Gus Van Sant, Richard Linklater, all of these American auteurs from, is Gus Van Sant American? He might be European, but anyway, you get what I'm saying.
Or Canadian, maybe.
Something like that. But yeah, they're relegated to independent cinema, and they don't get many releases the way that Quentin Tarantino gets whatever he wants.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think also Tarantino was more. I mean, granted, there are gaps in times between his films and stuff, but I think he was, in general, compared to his peers. There was much more consistency in terms of product being brought out because, that's the way just entertainment is. It's like if you're not putting out something, nobody's going to care,
And the big thing with Quentin Tarantino is that I don't think he's made an unprofitable film yet. I think that every one of his films...
Yeah, I think the only one that you can possibly even make an argument of being unprofitable was maybe Jackie Brown that comes to mind.
Which is funny because I think it's kind of a film nerd thing to say, but no. Budget was $12 million, box office $75 million.
Okay, yeah.
So even that, because that was going to be a box office hit just by virtue of being the film he made after
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, Alex. Yeah. Everyone, thank you for listening.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry
to interrupt.
Thanks for coming to Film Corner.
Film Corner is great when we talk about Film Corner.
We're going to start a new podcast called Film Doom, and it'll all be just like talking about films and filmmakers and whatnot.
Yeah.